Hello, and welcome to Mirrorverse Education. Today we're going to be talking about adding rational numbers. Simplify the following expression, negative 2 1/4 plus 5 3/4. What this question really asks is, what is 5 3/4 more than negative 2 1/4? We'll start by visualizing the problem on a number line, and we'll start down at negative 2 1/4. Since we are adding a positive value, we will need to be taking steps up the number line. Let's go ahead and say that each of these intervals on the number line represents 1/4. Let's take our 3/4 jumps first. As we get closer to 0, that means that we'll go to negative 2, negative 1 3/4, and up to negative 1 1/2. Now we have 5 whole jumps to take, 5 groups of 4/4. When we do that, we land on 3 1/2. So we can see that negative 2 1/4 plus 5 3/4 equals 3 1/2. And the number line model is really effective, but sometimes it's time consuming. So let's try this problem again, just relying on some properties of numbers and operations. When we look at this expression, negative 2 1/4 plus 5 3/4, we're going to get a little flexible. There's a property called the commutative property of addition, and all it means is that the two terms in an addition expression can be written in either order without changing the value of the problem. So I can swap the two terms and rewrite this problem as 5 3/4 plus negative 2 1/4. So if you've watched our integer series, you may already know this. Adding and subtracting have a really cool inverse relationship. So if I add a number, I actually can achieve the same effect by subtracting the opposite of that number. So adding negative 2 1/4 actually is the exact same thing as subtracting positive 2 1/4. And the reason this is helpful is now we just have a very friendly subtraction problem. 5 3/4 minus 2 1/4. I can stack it just like this and can pretty quickly see that what I have left is 3 2/4, which simplifies to 3 1/2, just like before. Negative 2 1/4 plus 5 3/4 equals 3 1/2. Okay, let's take a look at a problem involving decimals. Simplify the following expression, negative 2 25/100 plus negative 5 75/100. Really what we're asking is what happens when you combine negative 2 25/100 and negative 5 75/100. I think that a chip method could be really useful here. So here I have 2 1/4 red chips, right? 25/100 is the same thing as 1/4, and my red chips are representing that I'm talking about negative numbers here. I want to combine that with negative 5 75/100. 75/100 is the same thing as 3/4, so I can use that piece to fill in the missing section of that first chip, and I need 5 more negative chips. This gives me a total of 8 red chips, which means the answer would be negative 8. I mean, really, that felt a lot like adding positive 2 25/100 plus positive 5 75/100. Not a lot different. It's just that we end up with a negative value. So let's try picturing it this way. If we have two negative numbers, we can almost ignore the negative signs for a second and just solve a regular addition problem. When I add 2 25/100 plus 5 75/100, I end up with 8. If I just put my negative signs back, I end up with negative 8. Negative 2 25/100 plus negative 5 75/100 equals negative 8. So hopefully that look at adding rational numbers, both by using some different visual representations and by using some properties of numbers and operations, has given you some flexibility in solving problems like this and some confidence as well. Thanks!